I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm attending on behalf of Tim today.
Morning, Kate.
Morning.
She had homework. Good morning, everyone. I'll call the meeting to order, and I'd like to respectfully acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional lands of the First Nations that have been inhabited by Indigenous peoples from the beginning. In particular, I acknowledge the history, spirituality, and culture of the territory of the Anishinaabe Nation, peoples of the Three Fires, known as Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi Nation. Further give thanks to the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, known collectively as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, as the traditional keepers of this land. We recognize and deeply appreciate their historic content to this area, as well as the contributions of the Métis, Inuit, and other Indigenous peoples whose ancestors shared these lands and waters. May we live with respect for each other on this land and live in peace and friendship with all its diverse peoples. May we rich. Moving on to the first item is approval of the agenda, and there's one item that would like to be added to it. We'll add it under 16F, and it's just a loitering issue. With no items to be added. Yeah. The agenda, if I have a motion for that. Mary, thank you. Seconded. Brian, thank you. Declaration of conflict of interest arising out of the minutes and the matters. Oh, sorry. Thank you. All in favor? It's even written here. I can't even read. Thank you. Any declaration of conflict of interest? Hearing none. We have no presentations, deputations, or public question period. And if I'd have a motion to confirm the minutes of the public session held on March 18th, 2026. Mary, thank you. Seconder. Mary, thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Any business arising out of the public minutes? Hearing none. Correspondence in your package, you would have received the report from Crime Stoppers of Grey Bruce from January to March of 2026. And under number 9, Chairman's report, nothing really to report. I just have an OSPSB board meeting on April 30th. It will actually be a PGO, our new operating name, Police Governments of Ontario. And moving on to item number 10, and I think we have a IOP presentation from Hank.
That's really quick in the meeting. Wow.
I'm just gonna, sorry, I didn't have it on there. I don't.
Nope, it's not on.
It's just a little, sorry.
Hi.
Hi, I'm just gonna put this on here for you.
So this presentation I did for the OACP Zone 5 meeting. It's only about 5 minutes long. It's pretty short. I don't know, were you there, Chief?
No, I wasn't able.
I know the chair was there.
Yeah.
And after that meeting, the chair asked me to bring this to the board. And I couldn't make the last meeting, so I apologize for that. So it's a little bit delayed and things have changed a little bit since I first wrote this. So please bear with me when I go through it. So here we go. The goal today is to provide information on Inspector General decisions and findings reports. What they are, why they matter, and some thoughts about how you should be thinking about IG decisions. This is not about walking through individual files, and it's not about debating legal thresholds. This presentation has 3 main themes. First, how IG decisions are communicated and used in Ontario. Second, why publications matter to the chiefs and boards, operationally, governance-wise, and in terms of risk. And third, what an organizational response could look like. I hope to give some thoughts about how to use these decisions in the context of service improvement or as part of the quality assurance process as required by the adequate and effective policing regulation. On slide 2. This is slide 2?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. In December 2025, the Inspector General announced that the inspector would begin publicly releasing Inspector General decisions along with accompanying findings reports. These releases will occur regularly as compliant investigations are completed. This is not a one-time publication or pilot project. The intent is transparency and a focus on improvement to provide the policing sector with practical examples of how requirements under the Act are being interpreted and applied, and where gaps or strengths are identified. Key shift is this: IG decisions are now public, visible, structured, and meant to inform the entire sector, not just the organization involved in a particular complaint. An Inspector General decision is a formal determination made under the Community Safety and Policing Act about whether Ontario's policing laws, regulations, and standards have been met. This is not guidance, commentary, or best practice advice. These decisions are legally binding and will serve as precedent for future matters. In practical terms, published decisions show how the Inspector General is interpreting and applying standards in real situations. That interpretive function is what makes them relevant to all services, not just the ones involved in a particular investigation. There are two types of matters that result in IG decisions. There's Section 106 matters, which concern the conduct of Police Service Board members, or 107 matters, which examine whether policing services are providing adequate and effective policing, comply with the law, or follow policies or procedures set out by the Police Services Board, the ministers, the chief, or the chiefs of police. Well, these are both different streams. Both have implications for chiefs and boards. Governance findings can affect operational competence, public trust, and working relationships. Service delivery findings directly affect operational decisions. Policy and training are examined under oversight. In both cases, the IG decisions and findings shape expectations going forward. As of this past Sunday, there have been 14 IG decisions released. Prior to that, when I did the presentation, I think there was 8. So they are released randomly throughout as they're completed. There's also 2 IG decisions that are on the website that are out of mandate. So what's happened was the investigation was completed, and during that time, the board member has stepped down. So the IOP in essence loses jurisdiction. However, there's still a value in reading those, and they are included on the website. Each investigation or inspection results in 2 connected documents, a findings report and an IG decision. The findings report lays out the evidence and analysis, what was examined, what facts were established, and how the inspectorate reasoned through the applicable standards. And the IG decision is where the IG confirms whether those standards were met. Where non-compliance is found, the Inspector General may issue directions to address identified gaps. If those directions are not followed, measures may be imposed to ensure compliance. In board member conduct matters, sanctions are also possible. I lost track what slide we're on here. Is this slide 4?
It's 2. Do you want me
I think we should have 4. There we go. Thank you. Very early on, the IG is clearly signaling system-wide expectations for boards, police services, and chiefs. There are 4 reoccurring themes that you should be paying attention to because they affect operational decisions. There's and ultimately personal accountability. Theme 1 is governance conduct, and communications can create operational risk. Inspector General's decisions should not be overlooked by chiefs. There's an example where a Police Services Board member disclosed confidential operational information obtained during closed meetings. The IG did find misconduct and emphasized that confidentiality is essential to public trust and effective governance. Theme 2, adequacy must be demonstrated. The IG's made it very clear that call taking, dispatch, and communication decisions are no longer peripheral operational issues. They are now central to compliance. Several decisions so far demonstrate this. In these cases, the IG has found statutory requirements for adequate and effective policing were technically met. However, concerns were still raised, for example, about initial call prioritization, delays in acting on new information, and failures to notify callers when response times exceeded internal thresholds. This tells us is that adequacy is not only whether officers eventually attend, it's about how decisions are made, when they are made, how they are documented, and how they are communicated. Theme 3 deals with specialized capabilities and equipment use is being examined. The clearest example of this decision is the decision involving the pepper ball system. This came out of Peel Regional Police. The service conducted research, relied on vendor-approved training, and believed it was acting responsibly. However, under the regulations, officers cannot carry or use a weapon unless provincially prescribed training requirements exist and are met. Because no such training had been prescribed, the IG found the service to be non-compliant and issued binding directions to stop use. As I understand it, there was 3 or 4 other departments that were using pepper ball at the time and are no longer doing so because of the IG decision. Theme 4, professional service delivery and communication matters as much as outcomes. Another theme running through the decisions is that public complaints are often about process, not misconduct. There's an example decision involving an alleged refusal to accept a harassment complaint. The IG ultimately found the service complied with the act, but the finding depended heavily on evidence that the service followed up, sought further information, and explained the appropriate process. The IG explicitly praised the services for strong coordination, phased enforcement, and clear communication. And the term good customer service was used deliberately. And I believe that was Waterloo, and there was a media release yesterday in regards to that as well. The IG has openly commended Waterloo Police for a very thorough investigation, which came to light as a result of an IG inspection. The message includes that adequate and effective policing includes how people experience your service, clear intake processes, explanation of why police will or not act, follow-ups, and closing the loop have become relevant in many of these investigations. Slide 5. Why this matters to the chiefs and boards. These decisions matter for several reasons. First, they are binding and create precedent. If a similar issue arises in the future, published decisions may be used as a reference point in assessing compliance. An example of that would be is if Owen Sound decided to implement pepper ball usage after the decision now being released, there would be a huge risk for that based on the previous decision of the IG. Second, they provide insight into how standards are being interpreted in practice, which directly informs leadership decisions about policy, training, governance relationships, and operational oversight. And third, they contribute to public transparency. Chiefs and boards may reasonably be asked how the service stays informed and aligned with emerging oversight expectations. So what is expected of services? The IG has strongly encouraged police services and boards to build an organizational process to ensure that decisions are reviewed and where appropriate, integrated into operations. Practical terms, this does not mean changing practice every time a decision is published, but it does mean assigning responsibility for awareness, assessing relevance, and being able to demonstrate being informed if an issue later becomes subject to oversight or an inspection. Slide 6. Perfect. The purpose of publishing decisions and finding reports is to strengthen transparency, accountability, and overall policing performance across Ontario. For chiefs, senior leaders, and boards, the opportunity is to use these decisions as organizational intelligence, to understand how standards are being applied, and to ensure your service is aligned and defensible. The memo encourages services to stay informed through the inspectorate website. And I do have a few notes here that I've created after this was developed. I would encourage everybody here to check out the IOP website. In the bottom left, there's a contact us area where you can sign up for email alerts. If you haven't already, you should do so. Again, there's only been 14 so far, so it's not too cumbersome. But it actually, each ID's decision comes with a summary as well, which is about 2 or 3 paragraphs. Really quick, easy read. Decisions are now posted on Canly as well, which is recent as of I think last week. And what I've noticed is some boards, and it's entirely a board decision, what they've been doing is including the IG decisions as part of their correspondence. So when they are released, the summaries are included with the package under correspondence. And that way you ensure the board is aware of these decisions. So it's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
So far there's only 14, so it's not a whole lot. With that, the other stuff's on the Toronto inspection. So with that, do you have any questions? I know you already said you signed up for the.
I go through all of
Get
them,
involved.
more than a third.
Yeah.
But I don't have them. John, you know, the chair also receives them, but any of the ones that are unfounded for board members where it simply says they acted appropriately, I've not done anything with those, but
I suspect there'll be more coming once the strategy gets, as it gets caught up, but 14 so far, we're well over about 1,500 complaints. There's been 14 decisions, so a lot of them are streamed out, the complaints, so don't really result in decisions because they're not. But there are some coming still that are related a little bit.
What's pepper ball?
It's like an aerosol spray, but it's used from a,
It's in a shotgun round.
Yeah.
It's a little ball that in riot situations, they fire them at the ground in front of the crowd. Just creates distance for pepper spray.
So we wouldn't be
We don't have anything like that here.
no, it was Peel, I believe Waterloo, and I want to say Windsor, they may have also acquired the equipment, but now no longer can use it, so obviously there's a cost of the board too, once you buy the equipment, you can't use it.
can't use it. Yeah.
So did they ban the use of it or ban the use of it without training?
Right now, there's no prescribed training standards the ministry has created. So Peel did a great job. They bought the equipment. They actually went down to the States, got the training. They did all due diligence, did a lot of good work. However, the ministry's not provided any guidance on that yet. So by an absence of that guidance, they can't use it until the ministry has. And the ministry's training could be simply go to the States and take their training. Who knows? It is not there yet. Right? So they jumped the gun a little bit, I guess, if you will. The equipment hopefully will be used because it's a very, very common tool in the States.
Effective?
I would assume so.
But it's distance too. You don't have to throw it.
It's a tactical
Yeah.
beam function, so makes us in the bigger services if they.
Any other questions for Hank? Thanks, Hank. Appreciate that very much. Moving on to item number 11, operational reports, and I noticed that Inspector Masson was highlighted on this. I mean, Deputy?
But I'm gonna have to go off the screen because I'm still on 20 minutes of. My laptop's not. this morning. Start with the criminal investigations branch. There were actually 2 drug investigations that occurred throughout the month. We had a group of our officers doing some enforcement in the downtown River District area with respect to open drug use, and during that 9 individuals were arrested and a number of grams of crystal meth and fentanyl were seized. That's something we're going to be trying to be doing on a regular basis, just as a way to help keep control of some of that activity downtown. And another one, there was a investigation that was done jointly with the OPP, which ended up with 2 firearms being seized. It was happening mostly in town, but the rest was done just south of Rockford in OPP territory. Resulted in 2 firearms seized and a significant quantity of fentanyl and cocaine. And charges related to that as well. The remainder of the report is just with respect to the mental health referrals. The numbers are there. We've talked about drug overdose information. The number of fatalities has significantly reduced, not only here but across the province. There's a number of different reasons why we suspect that's happening. The toxicity of the fentanyl has been starting to see a lot more meth and cocaine coming back in, replacing some of the fentanyl, but the SOS team has a great program that's been running here for over a year now that's I think contributes to that as well, so that's all good news. Just some training presentations, our in-house Crown Counsel and one of our detectives with respect to intimate partner violence to some police foundation students at Georgian College. And the remainder is just stats on for the bail compliance and apprehension unit continues to be very effective dealing with those issues. And then we move to core. So our core officer is getting quite a few foot patrol hours in the River District area. That number is just specific to the core officer. We later report on all the foot patrol hours from the rest of the officers combined as well. So number of tours at the station and some community events with Cubs and Scouts, and the remainder. That is the CIB and director report. Any questions? The auxiliary unit put in 181 hours of time. Jessica Brown, we talked about this at Sergeant, our auxiliary sergeant. Talked about this at the last meeting, but she's got herself trained up for the car seat installation and inspection. So she's done another 4 hours of that, assisting people getting their car seats either checked out or assistance with installation. This is the time of year that all of these force qualification happens as well. So we had to bring all of our auxiliary unit in for the requalification. So around 50 hours time was done to get that training completed. And one of our auxiliary members has resigned from his role as of March 26th. Frontline patrol and part-time stats, vision statistics. So this is, we're showing some increases in the number of traffic charges, which is good to see for last year, same time. You'll see our part-time officers are still heavily engaged up at the courts, 246 hours of court security time being done by our part-time officers. And prior to assigning them to that, they one of their key responsibilities was traffic enforcement. So that's where you're seeing the number of charges reduced from them as well. Criminal code numbers, we're seeing a slight drop in criminal code numbers. We think some of that is probably going to be reflective of the pre-charge consultation process that came in, just working some wrinkles out of that. I think they will start to balance out. It was just some confusion with some of the officers in terms of where the Crown became involved in that process. So we probably saw a little bit of a drop as that got rolled up, but I think that's all been straightened out by Inspector Matheson. Ride programs, actually are up fairly substantially for the number of pairs charged in March. We had 8. Typically only see a couple a month usually on that stat. 18 ride checks conducted, resulting in 600 known drivers checked. There was 1 person charged with impaired as a result of the ride program. So the remainder are just the officers doing their regular day-to-day traffic work. So there's your collisions. There's nothing really unusual with respect to our year-to-year collision numbers. They're all relatively consistent. So certainly nothing to comment on there. And this will be the community service officer. Basically, all of his interactions through the month of March, he remains very busy with, as you can see, I won't read through them all, but there's any number of community engagement items that have happened. Those are all with respect to our social media, 38 posts done in March. Advancing all of the seen there, and a list of all the community engagement and committee work that have happened month of March. Again, just a list of all the workshops, various training events that have happened through the month. And with respect to training through March, again, just a listing of all the various training that our members have attended through the month. Fraud investigators course at Ontario Police College. We sent our CIB sergeant on the professional standards investigations course that was held in Oshawa. We often will use the sergeant to investigate some of our minor law enforcement complaints, administration complaints that come through. Our training officer went on the carbine instructor requalification, so that he's able to teach that, as well as the fitness pin assessment course, which was hosted by PO Regional Police. We did have a fitness pin coordinator that left us about a year ago and went to York, so that was filling the gap so that we are able to do there's a I believe it's the OSPSB that supplies a fitness pin that the officers can wear in the uniform if they meet the requirements every year. It's voluntary, but we used to have to send them to one of the adjoining services for that, so now we're able to do it here again. And again, he spoke of the auxiliary unit completing use of force training. And the other thing is we have our newest recruit, Chief and Inspector Matheson. We're down for the graduation, and we swore her in a few weeks ago, and she is now. I believe they are just finishing up with the training officer, and then she'll move on to your job shortly. So.
Brian, you have a comment?
Can you just go back to the 9 charges for public use of drugs? Can you just explain what the follow-up procedure is for those?
It was 9 arrests. It's not necessarily 9 charges. I don't have the charge number, but it wasn't 9. So our process right now, so this all goes back to some direction that came out from the Public Prosecution Service of Canada with respect to what they will essentially bring forward with respect to possession of narcotics charges, not trafficking, not those sorts of things, but somebody that actually possesses illegal narcotics. They have a practice direction that went out to all the prosecutors in terms of what they within the PPSC are willing to take through to a court process. And I forget the wording in that, Chief, but it's substantial. It essentially has to identify a number of specific harms to the community. It has to be happening in the presence of children, or areas typically frequented by children, and there's a big parameter in there. But what it doesn't take away is the police's ability to arrest. It's still a arrestable charge if somebody, that the charge was never removed from the criminal code or the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act. So it is still illegal to possess substances. And our approach has been that people doing that in open public areas where we're seeing active drug use, the officers will arrest, they'll seize the drugs, and then it becomes a matter of whether or not the circumstances fit within the Public Prosecution Service of Canada's framework for what they'll support charges on. So I forget, without looking, that people were arrested, maybe 2 or 3 of them actually had charges for seized, and then they'd be released on condition.
Okay, thanks.
Good. All right, moving on to administrative reports.
I'll look at those.
Okay.
So records, courts and bylaw report, just going through the bulk records, which is significantly in March from February, and we're on track for our year to date. Our warrants executed are down slightly. Persons charged, Dave mentioned, that relates to, there's 23.4% reduction, but that a lot of that relates to the pre-charge consultation and not having to go through and put the whole package together and lay a charge and then have it withdrawn up to the courts in any event. So that's going to say, although the numbers decreased, I think we have to put a little asterisk next to the statistics as to why they decreased moving forward, because it's not necessarily that there's less charges that could be laid. It's just we're not going through all the effort and all the work to put a bag together to make that decision sometime down the road. It gets withdrawn at the courts. Now it's going to get withdrawn right at the front. And we're also looking, just on a side note, we're also looking at some pre-charge diversion programming, so that there's options of not laying a charge but moving through just like they would if they were at the court and they got pre-charged once they were charged. So that's there's early discussions on that. So you'll see in the chart, if you scroll down, you'll see the number of charges are dropping off significantly this month, and that was when we started the pre-charge concept. Going down to the courts, you'll see a significant increase in the special constable hours. There were quite a few matters up in court and scheduled for the month of March. They got back into full swing. 29.8% increase in special constable hours worked. That's staffing up there to cover those increased demands in the court. Total persons in custody transported remained about the same as last year's year to date. The special constable hours have increased, but they were down lower for the first 2 months, so we're on par. I will note that the 7 armed officers primarily using part-time officers continues to be a draw in the service. And as the deputy mentioned, they're not doing the things that they were hired or planned to do. So we're missing that foot patrol that assistance with daytime calls for service volume, and the calls for service continue to increase. As we'll get to that in the communication center. So when you're looking through that, highlight that the all police calls increased 10.4%, but still year to date they're slightly down. OSPS calls have increased 15.2% in the month of March, but overall 5% year to date, which I think is significant. It talks to officers, their workload and demand calls for service. We're averaging 52 calls per day, and that's representing a 4% increase over the 50% and 5% increase over last year. So we continue to see increased demands for our services in the city. The daily dispatch rate for calls for service, the second one down, next one down, sorry. You'll see our calls are higher on average every month than they were moving forward, explaining that 5% increase. But this is also the time of year where it's below the average, and we're not coming into our peak until you see April through to October, where we anticipate that those calls will increase more. So a 5% increase now during what would be considered the slower time is a concern moving forward of what it's going to be during peak demand side. I like that. Information technology, quite a bit of work was done with the call hosted solution and onboarding for some of our clients. I will note that our onboarding took several weeks to get through. Bell still hasn't been as cooperative in the onboarding process, but we onboarded our last agency in half a day, significantly went on a week for us to get the onboarding completed. So they were quite pleased that we used that time wisely, and we're obviously learning from that as well. Westgate Police Service opened a new facility, and we continued with the installation of those things that we build back to them for those services. And at the same time, we keep everything running here.
Keep the lights on.
And now we'll turn it over to our guest. So just a bit of an update. We were in partnership with Hyper, and I think later in the package there's an article about Hyper, and they were purchased by Motorola Systems. Obviously they saw a lot of potential, a lot of future with the company, much the same way we did when we piloted with them early on as an adopter to try and develop it. So we got in at the right time. I'm sure the costs are going to increase significantly now that they're part of a large conglomerate, but we have we were early adopters, and we used some grant funding in order to get moving forward with this project. And I'll let Suzanne, there's
Carol, is it?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
She has to probably do that.
There. Good morning, everyone. A question regarding the stats, the service calls, and the fact that court hours are increasing. Do we keep a track of the statistics of the actual time to respond to calls as an indicator at all?
As far as response times for based on priority, yes, we have all that data and all that information. Some of it's skewed, but generally we do have that data and that information as to and it varies. And one of the things the IOP was trying to do was establish a response time calls for service. But the issue and the concern with that is it's like comparing apples to oranges. If one person, we do it by priority type, and and standard priority call types, unless everybody uses the same call types and the same priorities, what could be a higher priority for somebody else is a lower priority for us, that type of thing. So we do have information on response times, but it's hard to compare it across the board.
So the issue is we have our internal priority schedule and data, and The question is, will we be tracking internally based on anticipated increased demand for service and the fact that the court hours are increasing so that we can see a trending on the impact of these changes?
Yeah, so I think if I understand what you're asking is if we see that the calls for service are increasing and our call time and our call responses are increasing at the same time, then it speaks to workload and officer availability and the need for or demand for increased resources to simplify it down. And yes, that's something that we look at and we examine, and it would go into any type of a staffing plan.
That would be helpful for us to know as a board as well as you go forward, because obviously we need to keep an eye on what's happening as we move forward. So thank you for that.
Yep. Okay, so now Suzanne can talk about Kara.
Yes.
So as the chief said, the time or the amount of calls that the dispatch keeps increasing every month. As we move into summer, we're going to see the call volume increase substantially. So part of NG 911 and the new phone system allows us to explore different ways and different workflows with those calls. In partnership with Hyper, we're able to take some of the lower priority non-emergency calls and transfer them to Kara, our community assistance and response agent, and have her handle the calls. And then if an officer needs to be dispatched, then we can go through the proper process and comms to do that. So Kara operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's applied to every single service that we dispatch for. So Saugeen Shores, Owen Sound, Hanover, West Grey, and Coburg and Port Hope. And all of them, all she's doing right now is taking all the non-emergency phone lines, and she's trying to decipher if the call is administrative, so a general inquiry about criminal records, or a question about her fingerprint date, or if it's a minor report that has no suspect, no victim, no weapons, and she can actually take the call and create an email and send that to dispatch so that they can dispatch an officer if that's needed, or she can send a text to so that the person can report it online. Currently, the online portion is only applicable in Owen Sound and Coburg, and the hope is to move everyone to that platform within the next year as well. We can change. So right now, our dispatchers handle a significant call volume every day, not only with 911, but with the administration lines. So the focus is to try and take some of those calls away from them and allow them to concentrate solely on dispatching and emergency calls. So Kara will transfer calls to dispatchers immediately if there's any emergency detected. So if there's yelling in the background, if somebody's swearing and not answering her phone or questions, if she can't understand understand the caller at all, or simply if the person says, I want to speak to a call taker, or I want to speak to an officer, then she'll immediately transfer that call through to the dispatchers. The callers are immediately engaged with her when they call her administration line. She picks up immediately, and she has a structured form of SOPs that she follows, so standard operating procedures for each of the calls. Some of the calls that we're going through to her right now are theft under 5,000, lost property, gas drive-offs, and mischief to property under 5,000. So all of those are essentially reported after the fact. So somebody comes home after work, they figure out that somebody's, tried to break into their garage, or there's a theft of the bicycle that they left on the front porch. She can handle and process those calls. They don't require immediate dispatch of an officer, and the information that she takes then formulates the report. If there's any follow-up that needs to be done, then the dispatchers take a look at that and create a call for service. So right now, Hyper is offering real-time transcription and documentation. So we can actually see, we have a portal, and we can actually see every single call that comes through and the questions that she's asking. And we can actually play a transcript of the calls as well. She offers support in 30+ languages, which means that the dispatcher doesn't have to intervene. They can speak their language and we don't have to transfer the call to a language line. So they're immediately able to talk to them in their own language. Yeah. She is emotionally responsive. So one of the calls that I've attached actually for you was an interaction with a dog. And the caller and the dog and another dog, Kara actually responds and says, "I'm really sorry that you went through this. I'm going to put you through to a dispatcher." So the emotional response that she gives is probably even a level above what we currently do in dispatch, because we're going from call to call. She automatic escalation to dispatchers. So right now we're seeing a lot of swatting calls in Coburgs. All of those are starting on the admin lines, and she is automatically identifying the emergency and transferring those calls through to a dispatcher. So we're not it's not wasting any time with those emergency calls. There's a lot of analytics that this is going to be able to provide us. And from the analytics, we're able to identify trends and change some of our SOPs so that we can increase what she's doing for us. They're very supportive group. They're not only can we look at our information, but they're looking at our information as well. And they're providing us with feedback and other things to consider, which is great. So she automatically transfers to the proper police service for admin calls. So before, we would have to take the information and relay it to the sergeants or to the officers over the radio, whereas now she just transfers that call directly back to the admin number, or like the administration for that service. She is sending an online link for any of the reporting for Owen Sound and Coburg. She's capturing a report through standardized questioning and emails that to dispatcher if an officer needs to be dispatched. And she transfers the calls immediately for processing. So this is the call that I was talking about. So she answers it. You've reached the non-emergency police assistance line for Owen Sound, and runs through all of our police partners. If you're reporting an emergency or a crime in progress, please hang up and dial 911. She explains to them that she is Kara and she's here to help you process her thing. What we found in dispatch, by actually naming her, the people who are calling in, if they have a follow-up, they will say, "I spoke to Kara earlier." So then the dispatchers know that they actually spoke to the online, and they can go back in and see what was reported online. So it's really helpful. And I think we get a little bit more interaction with the public utilizing her that way, and not getting angry and hanging up. So so the caller says, "I just wanted to report to someone." "All right, can I help you with that? Could you please tell me a little bit more with what you want to report?" "I was walking my dog and almost got hit because the person wouldn't wait at a stop sign." And she says, "That sounds really scary. I'm glad you and your dog are okay. Sounds like you're reporting a crime, and I'm going to transfer you to a call taker." And the call got transferred. So, and all of that took place in a matter of 30 seconds. So there's no delay in it's automatic, it's quick, and you're done.
So this all seems amazing to me.
It is quite amazing.
Is it really that good, or is there hiccups?
There are some hiccups. Some of the hiccups are due to our SOPs. So we have to develop them more. One of the things, like when you get into the stat portion of the presentation, one of the things that it identifies is that there's, I think, over 50% of the calls are categorized as other. So those calls deal with wanting to speak to an officer directly, or wanting to leave a message for an officer. We didn't implement anything for that on the system.
Right.
So now Hyper is developing something, because we're a bit of a unicorn. We process calls for 6 different police services. We have to figure out how that workflow is going to work.
So you just keep getting better and better.
Yeah. And that's the nice thing with Kara, she is very adaptive. And they're very responsive, like all the swatting calls that we've had, they've gone in, they've dug through programming within minutes of the call to see where the call is coming from, what they can do to improve to improve their service. Excuse me, so it is very, very adaptive.
Quite consistent as well.
It seems to be quite
And as you
consistent.
say, with no disrespect to 911, but it's emotionally stable.
Yeah.
It's, yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna
Yes,
get the
right.
same response every time, and there's no influx in voice, you don't perceive or hear a tone in the dispatcher's voice, and yeah. So hopefully,
There's more and more of AI all the time, and as you get used to, as soon as you know you're talking to AI, I speak differently because they just want general information.
yeah, they just want you to
Oh,
answer the
Sure.
information, not provide the whole story, just enough to get the call on and get it going.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Mary?
So these are calls going to 1-2-3-4 or
Yes.
911?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
There is a 911 component that we're starting to look at now, which could potentially do our abandoned and our unanswered calls. So right now, with every 911 call where there's a person that hangs up or the call isn't successful in connecting, we have to call those back. So we do 2 callbacks and we do 1 text message. And Kara has the potential of taking that over for us. So if they call back and the person isn't cooperative, or they're angry, or there's yelling in the background, or whatever the reason, then they'll automatically transfer that to a call taker. But that connection is automatically made, and the dispatchers aren't spending, you could spend up to 10-15 minutes trying the callbacks due to interruptions. So if a 911 comes in, they have to hang up and then start that whole process over again. So this eliminates that.
Okay, so if I'm on the elevator at City Hall and I push the wrong button,
You still come to 911.
comes to 911.
Yep.
Okay. How's the public response to this?
They seem to be pretty good. I think our response could be a little bit better, but I think it's more based on our SOPs than it is actually the callers. I haven't received a complaint, let's put it that way.
Okay.
Anything else for?
Carol or anybody, does Carol have any
Yeah.
questions, or do you know that?
She would put her hand up.
Okay.
So I'll just do the stats real quick. Something that we haven't been able to process or to figure out before NG 911 was the number of calls that we process on the admin line. So Kara is able to do that for us. She tells us that right now we have processed in 1 month, so from the 10th of March to the 10th of April, 5,076 calls on the administration line. 24% of those calls have been handled without escalation, so that means it wasn't transferred. 2.7% of those calls were resolved by a hyper agent, so meaning that those calls were either received a link to online reporting, or the Kara was able to obtain a synopsis of the call and send it to the dispatchers. Yeah.
Is there duplicate Karas to answer calls, or does everyone ever get a busy signal?
Well, you should never get a busy signal with Kara. She can handle a number of calls at a time.
Brian?
Mid-call disconnect. Is that people that maybe realize that it's automated and they don't want to talk, or what?
It could potentially,
Yeah.
it could potentially, yeah, but they always call back.
Okay.
So if they want to get a hold of somebody quick, like enough, they'll keep calling.
Right.
So eventually they either have to go through her or say, I want to talk to
Oh, I see.
an officer, or I want to talk to a call taker.
Or it could be after the initial response, and if it's an emergency, hang up and dial 911.
They could do that too.
Oh, okay, so that would be part of that number too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's only 1, 2, 3, 4 that the Kara's fronting it for.
And then the last one just is the last slide is just a explanation of the type of calls that she's currently handling. So there's follow-up, gas drive-off, gathering email information, lost items. So you can see like a fairly significant number falls under other. Well, half of them fall under other. So that's where we worked with Hyper. We went back through the transcripts, and we can see the reason why through the transcripts that they're disconnecting. So a large number of those actually have to do with wanting to leave a message for an officer, wanting to do follow-up with an officer or wanting to talk specifically with an officer, so like for another service or whatever.
What does no caller transcript mean?
That there is no connection, so somebody hung up before they even got to care. Okay. So there's, so 70% of the calls were handled by the operators. We're looking to get that down, and that is actually down significantly from when we started. So we were doing a week by week comparison, and we still are. And our call handling is getting better. The emergency line, so those are emergency calls that got or that the person hung up and dialed 911. So 9% or 0.9% of the calls are own sound. 0.7 are Saugeen Shores, 0.3 is Coburg. So having those numbers or those percentages, we didn't have before. So this is a really good tool for me when I'm working with the dispatchers and figuring out what their workload is and where it's coming from.
Kara's gonna get employee of the year.
Yeah. It's very helpful though, because it's what you see more and more in dispatch is that because the call volume's going up, your dispatchers are becoming more stressed. So they're trying to get the calls on quickly, and sometimes their tone or their reaction to a call isn't what it should be. So having something like this in place where we can focus on the emergencies and get the radio and get out a fire department helps bring us back to center. And it's also going to help on the officer front because we're taking some of those initially, she's taking some of those initially. And so just next steps, this is what we're continuing to do with them. So we're looking at the real data and trying to find some trends and how we can increase or change our SOPs. They constantly do an AI reconfiguration with her voice and with the product. So if there's any changes, then they'll reach out and they'll say, okay, we've done this, and you should see a change in your responses. We can test all the changes. So any changes that they do on their end. So if we ask them to create an SOP, then we can test that in a test environment. That's something in dispatch we don't typically have access to. We make the changes and we run in a live environment and try to make other changes and modifications as we go. This is really helpful, being able to do that in a test environment. They're looking at standardized phrasing and then expanding categories for call handles, and hopefully sometime maybe within the next couple of years we can actually have it integrated with our CAD system. So then there's no email required, and it just automatically puts a call on and whatever.
So if someone called and didn't want to talk to a female, wanted to talk to a male, can AI flip to a male voice or?
Not currently, but we could potentially look at that. Yeah.
Next thing, we'll be changing Kara's name to
Yeah.
yeah, so don't go there.
We thought the name was very in line with our strategic plan because it's community assistant and response agent. So the dispatchers, we held a little competition for it. They came up with 5, I think I said 2, 5 different ones. We gave the chief the top 2 and he had the final say.
It's pretty hard to compare anything.
I will say, you know what, it was a great opportunity for us to partner early with the company and start developing this. As Suzanne said, they've been excellent to deal with. And the nice thing about it is it's a moving target. So that 50.9%, why is that happening? And they're the first ones to say, well, we can fix that by implementing XYZ. And so they're always looking at how to improve the product for the future and move it forward. So, and as other agencies are coming on board and adopting the system, we are able to access their SOPs. We've been sharing them back and forth so that we don't have to redevelop it, they reinvent it and doing all the work of creating what they've already done. So there's a lot of opportunity here moving forward to get this better and to improve the numbers. And like Suzanne said, this is the first month, and I think if we do this presentation again in a year, you'll see a drastic change in the numbers and the opportunities for removing the workload in the administrators. Even if it's 50% that are just looking to provide, I want to call back, or I want to put an email, I want to call from this officer, I want to send this officer a message. If we can implement that, that's strategy. And they're working with us to try and figure out the best way to move that forward. So a lot of work went into this by Suzanne and by Amy, and that should be recognized as well. Because it doesn't just automatically start answering phone calls. And as Suzanne kind of mentioned, we're a bit of a unicorn, and because of the work that we do for the number of agencies that we do. So it was a challenge for Hyper as well to create a system and a process that worked for us, and they've been good to deal with, but a lot of work went into it on Suzanne and Amy's part and the dispatcher side, looking at all the different possibilities before we actually go live and start testing. So,
And I have to say too, from the dispatcher's perspective, having given her a name and having them participate in that, they're more accepting of it, because there's that perception that somebody's going to take over their job. But that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to make their job easier so that they can focus on the emergency calls, and they have that time and they have that downtime between times. Or if they have a swatting event, they can take the 5 minutes after that call just to, get back to center and start over again. So.
Are there any other dispatch services that have Kara or Hyper?
Halton
Yeah.
currently is using it, and Toronto Police Service is using it. So we have monthly meetings with them, and we all go through our process and how we're doing it, so.
Right up there with the big boys.
Yeah,
yes.
and I will say they have teams of 10. I'm just gonna say that.
Just saying.
We're a team of 2.
Yeah.
That's why we're stealing all their work products.
Yeah.
Good,
Yeah.
good. All right.
Well, thank
Thanks,
you.
Suzanne. Appreciate that.
Good to see you again.
Right, moving on to 12C under human resources.
So OSL, at this point, that's the new HR and data and payroll and everything system that we're implementing. We're about 95% configured, and data verification's taking place. There were some significant delays in getting responses from the city so that the payroll export could be finalized, and the project milestones are behind because of that, but we want to be able to dump it into the city system so that there isn't duplication. We bought a system, I think it was my first year here in 2019, the one that we're replacing now, and it never worked to dump the information. We had to create Excel spreadsheets, provide that over, and it was duplication of work, and we're not doing that again. So it's caused delays, but we want to make sure it works when it goes live. And then training and policy data is being compiled to be uploaded in the system, so the as well as the quartermaster will be rolled out later on once we go live. And it was scheduled to start in May, but now I think probably in June, which isn't it's not significant. It's significant, but it's not the end of the world. But it wasn't on our end, so 5 candidates are moving forward to recruit constable for the selection. Hopefully get some candidates to go to OPC to fill the vacancies that we have right now. We had several new hires that you can see there, part-time data clerk, couple communicators, and then we had some individuals leave the service as well. Our clerical secretary, communicator, special constable, data clerk, and auxiliary. So that's about it. Last hours in training, we'll move on to there. You see the total number of hours, sick time up about 13%. Year to date, it's up about 17%. I can say I got the same bug that was coming through the whole building, and it seemed that there were a number of people that were off sick for a couple of days with illness as well. I'll highlight that there was an increase in the lost hours due to WSIB, and that was a result of a dog bite. One of our officers suffered and missed some time as a result of that. That's it for and unless there are any questions about the absences. And then moving on to building health and safety. So it was determined that we'd put a monthly update in for the board on the building. So just by way, I'll skim through it, but the brickwork, I just left that on there just to maintain that the awareness of that. Water leaks during the past several weeks, we've had heavy rains. There were 2 locations where the water was leaking on the front entranceway and as well back in the comm center. The wet tiles were removed and replaced, and in the front lobby, there's some work done there. I don't know the cause of the entry for the water in the comm center, or the front entranceway right now, but it only did it once. So I'm hoping it was the way the wind was driving and the heavy severity of the rain, and we don't have any other further issues, but it is something to highlight and make sure we keep an eye on. The cleaning service continues to do an excellent job, but their contract remains outstanding. Once the city transitions to their new employee, then we'll start talking about that. Routine maintenance and repairs, it's been really good that there's at least 2 days per week that somebody from facilities is coming over and making an appearance here in the building. And that's helped significantly on the general maintenance. Elevator still needs to be locked out manually in the evenings to prevent after hours access to the upstairs portion of the building. The front lobby washroom, I think there was an update on this after I did that, and that Dave, you spoke to Derek and
I spoke to Derek and, I mean, this probably goes back 4 to 6 weeks now, but he said it's just waiting on a locksmith to come and do the installation. He didn't have a time frames.
Okay. The AO compliance, obviously that's long-term and they'll need to be included in a facility assessment and needs review. Because there's no planned capital expenditure to meet that need. HVAC, we're waiting for the engineering review, assessment and recalibration scheduled for the coming months. There will be this will be a temporary repair with a new HVAC system for the entire building. Being a priority and not scheduled for several years, so they're going to try and do that. They're also trying to get the engineering. My first meeting with the new facilities individual from the city, they're trying to get the engineering done so they know what they need so they can order it and get it on order, because it'll probably be 18 months to get built for the building. So that's to be scheduled right away. Interior painting, Derek was by on the 17th and they're preparing and determining what and when the painting will start. It's supposed to be in the coming weeks, and I told them the public access downstairs and the main floor that sees 24-hour use have been are needed the most, because that's the most damaged, and people need to see some love in the building. So we're going to start there, and then they're going to continue with the painting and try and get the rest of it done later in 26 or 27. The parking lot storm drains. This winter there was some flooding and in the spring, and they vacuumed it out, but apparently they need to do some further work on that. So hopefully they'll get to that now that the weather's thawed and everything's better in the spring. And the main floor staff washroom renovation project, we haven't had any updates or information about start date. When I spoke to the facilities individual, I explained that can't just tell us tomorrow they're coming, because we'll have to do records checks and things on them prior to, so they're well aware of that, and it could cause a delay, so they need to let us know. That's it for facilities.
Great.
I just wanted to say thanks so much for doing a written report on this. That way, when council does receive the minutes, they can have a look and see how things are going.
Good.
We'll try and keep it up to date and keep things on there so they don't get missed and lost.
Supposed to be a HVAC consultant here probably now, going through the building with Sean Bosk, so I'm sure what he's doing.
I think that's the engineering consultant that so they can design the new system.
Right.
They said that was a priority to get it designed so they could order it, because it would be at least 18 months.
Yeah, Kate said she had to leave.
Yeah.
Very good. Moving on to financial update.
So we lost Kate, but I received an update from Kate on Monday afternoon or Monday evening. And I went through it briefly. I had meetings yesterday, but Jeff Hawk and I met for about 5 minutes, and we both agreed that the information that was there wasn't accurate enough to present to the board or in public, so we're going to hold off and we'll go through that information, bring it forward the next meeting.
I just want to ask Carol. Carol, can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay, are you on Corporate Services Committee?
I am.
Do you know if, these updates on, what is the report?
It's a projection out to the end of the
Yeah.
year for policing.
Do they go to Corporate Services?
Not,
Projection
not routinely that I've seen. I'm just new again on corporate services, but I think it's really, really important that we start to share this information. Just like we just did with the facilities update, like the more we get the information out. So definitely, are you thinking, Marion, that it would be good to ask for it to be included in the agenda on a regular basis?
Yes,
So I think that's a great idea. Who would do that? Who would make that request?
Just a question, does fire also appear on that?
on the report?
Yeah, no, do you get a report from fire as well?
I don't know, Carol.
Not on a regular basis that I'm aware of, but I think as we move forward, the more information to corporate services, because we're going to be changing in the next year, where it'll be all council members who sit on that financing. It's evolving into a different committee. So I think having the information go forward will be really, really important, because the whole committee structure is going to be changing. It won't include the public, it'll be all council. So I think changing the practice of sharing the information is important. Marion, what do you think?
Well, I think it's important as well, but the reason I'm saying it should go to
Corporate,
the committee, Corporate Services.
Yeah.
Because the chief has different figures than Kate has, and we need to find out why
Right.
those are.
for sure. And yeah, I think the more information we share, and the difference is we're a board, fire is a department, right? I mean, there's that kind of difference, but I'm just.
The projections, you're saying the projections for police, does that include emergency services?
Well, no, what I'm thinking is, are we singling out police service if we don't have fire there as well? Library, art gallery.
So that's another question you can ask.
Yeah, I think maybe that's something we could make as a request. It's unfortunate Kate has left, because this would have been perfect timing to be able to have that conversation with her.
I just want to hazard awareness of a hazard, and that is that the information, unless it's combined, unless it's provided mutually, it wouldn't be of value. Because like the report that I got yesterday, if that went there, it may cause alarm or it may cause concerns unnecessarily, because it's not accurate. There's a number of items on there. So if this were to happen, it would have to be done mutually through Kate and Jeff Hawk to come up with what is agreed upon as would be an accurate reflection of where we're at during the year. As
So
opposed
perhaps
to numbers just coming from one or the other.
Yeah, perhaps the question to corporate services or to Kate specifically is, as we transition to the new committee, will each fire, police, library all be submitting information to be shared at those meetings, so that it's not one versus the other, but it's all together, because it's important information to have made a public record for sure.
Thanks.
Okay, good. So moving on to chief's activity reports.
Everybody can read it, look it over, but a couple of highlights. The deputy attended the Women's House of Grey Bruce International Women's Day breakfast, and at Best Western as well, OPC graduation, and at Meaford Canadian Forces Base Meaford change of command, transfer of command and reassignment ceremony. We attended as well. Our relationship with the individuals that are running CFB Meaford, trying to work forward on some training work with them. Anything else? There was an interesting webinar on the conflict in the Middle East and Iran and the escalations, retributions, and end games of what's, what we could see happen here within Canada, the result of that. So that was it.
All right, moving on to other items. First one is the hosting of the Zone 5 meeting, October 6th. That's been confirmed now. We're we don't, I guess when we talked about having it, we didn't set a budget for it. Historically, Zone 5 meetings have been about $900, and that includes breakfast and lunch for about 50 people. And normally the venue cost is provided by the hosting municipality and or service. So looking at one of the areas we might be able to get, I think Chief Ambrose has got a contact and he'll be looking into that. So did you have a chance to look at pricing for 50 breakfasts and lunches?
No.
Okay,
No, it was breakfast as well.
all right, that's fine. Well, when I say breakfast, it's
It's,
donuts and coffee. Yeah. Banana bread, whatever. So what I'm suggesting we might do is someone put forth a motion to spend up to $1,000 for hosting this with the
I'll make that motion.
Mary, okay. Seconder?
That's right.
All right, so there'll be more details coming out. Go ahead.
Yeah. Before we
Discussion.
vote, to mention, is it possible to look for sponsorship for
Haven't normally in the past. What were you thinking about sponsors?
that? I don't know, just somebody at the community, businesses or something, sponsor the lunch or.
You could look at it, yeah.
It's tough to get anything out of that for the sponsor. Unless you get,
Oh, I see.
Yeah, because it's private, like they wouldn't,
Yeah.
they would get the name on the billboard, but it would only be the people that are at the meeting that would see it.
Okay.
Right, all in favor then of motion? Good.
yeah.
Yes.
It was just.
Next item is a neighborhood response team.
So Safe and Sound around the neighborhood response team ended. Did that in the March, I guess would have been, and their community outreach. It was the community outreach that they implemented downtown. There's some funding through the Grey County and EMS. So I met with Kevin McNabb for Grey County EMS to discuss the results. We haven't had an opportunity to meet with Safety Sound, but the information that they sent out was about the number of interactions that they had with the community and number of people they spoke to and dealt with. And I mean, they were obviously out there and they were meeting with people. I said the police haven't seen a reduction in calls for service. It's still a significant number of calls for service to Safe and Sound and dealing with the marginalized community in downtown. So I'm not sure the effectiveness from our end on that, but certainly I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention that program's ended now, and that we'll continue to meet with them or try and meet with them and see what they're at moving forward.
Is this something they were hoping the SOS team would kind of take over?
The SOS team was already in place as something they were hoping would deal with some of the, outside of the hours of SOS and work with people downtown. Part of their mandate was they would be asking people to move along if they were down in the downtown area, and it's kind of conflicting with the way we approach the situation.
Okay, so anything else to questions around that? Also in the item C, there's the article from Hyper U Inc. and this talks about Motorola's purchase of them and gives us some background on both companies there. Item D, staff appreciation night, and I'll turn it over to Kayla.
So this year's staff appreciation night, there was a survey sent out and we're looking to have it proposed, it would be a sit down dinner. And we've looked at In on the Bay and proposed date of end of October to beginning of November, no date confirmed yet. There was 2 estimates that were received. One includes the rental of the hall, food, and 1 drink voucher, and it was 9,874. And then the other cost was just for the hall and the food, which was 8,915. The difference being only the drink tickets. The association has agreed to share the cost this year, and they're looking at.
That's Seniors Officers Association or both?
No, the other, right,
Association.
association.
Okay.
They're looking to do possibly something like a photo booth as well for that night, and then doing the dinner and maybe something attributed like a trivia or something else. We haven't nailed down the details, but we were just bringing it forward. Looking to have a motion proposed for a budget that we would be able to follow to finish the planning for this year's staff appreciation night.
And what did we spend last year on it? On the staff appreciation night?
It was just under 10.
Yeah.
7.
7,500 or something like that. All right, anyone want to propose a budget? I was looking at half of 9,800, well, that'd be $5,000, and the other one was 9,000, so 4,500.
Yeah.
So 5,000, I don't know what figure we want to settle on.
I don't think we should put a figure on it. We could say up to $10,000.
But if the association's sharing.
Yeah, it's only half.
All right.
Yeah. Are there special presentations or awards given out at this as well?
Yeah, we usually give the service bars.
Service awards and any specific, like, I think we recognize attorneys medal there as well, just verbally. Things like that. There are
Those
some
aren't
awards.
included in this.
No.
Right.
No, they're provided regardless of the ongoing budget.
Right.
So we just need a number that we know. Yeah, I just don't want to go over and then have to deal with that. So if we said $6,000. Does
That work for you?
Then?
Sure.
Okay.
If they're paying. Starting with that.
Okay. Have a seconder for that?
I'll do.
Eric?
Yeah.
All in favor? Okay. $1,000 upward to. All right, and moving on to item F, and this was an item that we added to the agenda at the beginning of the meeting. And it was in regards to loitering. And did somebody want to speak to that issue?
I'll start it off. There's a great concern by the public with the loitering that's going to be placed outside of Safe and Sound. And I know the city has a loitering bylaw. I just want to have it explained publicly how that works. If the police chief can maybe add to it.
Well, I mean, it's a city bylaw and obviously we can enforce the bylaw. I'd be looking for some direction from the city as to why they wouldn't be enforcing the bylaw. And to, it's a daytime issue with bylaw enforcement working during the day. I would suggest that they should be taking the lead on that. And if there's a reason why they aren't taking a lead on it, then I would like to know about it before I go and step out and start doing those things.
So the city bylaw enforcement acts on complaint, so someone would have to complain that they're.
Yeah, they're not proactive.
or- Yeah. Cause I know there's a lot of interference with people walking through there, or people are afraid to walk through there.
Mhm.
There's even been comments of people being afraid to be downtown. Just because of the
Yeah. Loitering,
potential conflicts.
well, I mean, and I'm looking at it from the whole downtown, not in a specific. But loitering is a difficult thing because I would, you know, if I'm dressed in my police uniform and I'm sitting on a bench, why am I allowed to sit there and not be bothered? Well, somebody who may appear to be in a different, you know, acting out, maybe suffering from mental health or in a situation that isn't, you know, they don't have a place to go to. Why is it that you would enforce it against them? So it's a difficult thing to say, you know, we're going to enforce that for, you know, certain individuals and not for other individuals. So our position has always been that if there's an issue, we send officers down. As you saw there, we had 40 hours on from our car officer and 94 hours from our officers downtown, doing foot patrol. If there's an issue, they'll deal with the issue. And if there's a complaint, obviously we deal with the complaint. And they do proactive work while they're downtown, you know, doing their foot patrol, but I mean, we're not there 24 hours a day and we're not there doing it all the time.
So from the perspective of the bylaw itself, do the police have any input into the wording of the bylaw and
I've never in my
seen it?
since my time here, I've never been involved in any review of it or.
Is that something out of our purview? Or can we look at it and see if
It shouldn't be. Now, one other thing I'm aware of, there are other municipalities that have bylaws in place in regards to licensing for shelters and things like that. In order to keep that a little bit tighter and in and around an area in front of somebody who offers those services, because they've recognized in other communities that there's issues. And that's something that, you know, should probably be examined locally, should probably be looked at, you know, a little bit further, whether that's an amendment to the current bylaw or whether that's a completely separate bylaw. It'd be something that's up to the city to do, but that should be something they look at.
So is it possible to put that on an agenda to have a look at potential sheltering license bylaw and the loitering bylaw?
Yeah, we could,
Invite them to maybe.
we could probably do that. We could get some examples from other
Yeah.
municipalities that have something like that.
Okay.
Carol, do you have your hand up?
Yes, just some clarification around process. We are around the council table, we're asked to encourage people to fill in a report of concern. That's distributed to the appropriate city departments. Does report of concern also trigger to go to the police services? Is there that linkage as at all? How does it intersect?
Whoever screens them at the city and decides where they go, will often include myself or somebody here on those if they relate to police or if they feel that they need the police awareness.
So tracking the number of concerns that may come in as a result of the topic, is that done? I mean, are we seeing more of an increase of concern? So that's my first question. I have one other question as well.
As far as through the city, I don't know. I'll take them, I'll look at them, I'll see who needs to see them and I'll distribute them within the service. I don't track anything with them. They're one-offs for me and I don't receive them often enough to actually get all that worked up about them.
Okay, so the good news is you see them or someone in the police services. So we should continue to encourage people either to connect with police services directly or with Kara or report a concern, because it is a bylaw enforcement activity as well. So that's one thing to encourage the public if they have concerns to continue to do. Second of all is around on social media recently, there have been some postings of people taking images of downtown and some potentially aggressive behaviors. Who actually, how does that get addressed? I mean, it's on social media, but you know, that's not necessarily directing the issue to the resources that would follow up. I'm wondering, how do we get that and acted upon if it isn't already. There was one where there was some potential aggression towards a vehicle or people in a vehicle. And so that there's a lot of chatter on the social media around this, but you know, you have to know about something before you can resolve something, correct?
Yeah, so we have in the past become aware of issues and things through social media, and then we'll sign it out and somebody can follow up and look at it. But if it's not brought to our attention, that we're aware of it, then, you know, it could get missed. Usually it's somebody reaches out either from the city or the public. Usually it's from the community saying, have you seen this? And, you know, this was posted, and they send it directly to us. And then we can follow up and deal with anything that needs to be done on the criminal investigation side of things.
Gary?
Is it possible to have on the police website a report of concern section? Is that helpful?
We have an info at Owen Sound Police that if they have a concern and if you have anything, you can positive, negative, anything, you can put it through, and we have our own system.
Well, the problem is, it's a bylaw situation, which is the city. So whatever it is you do, it has to be done together. Have to be on the same page.
I would say that there is a body of case law out there with respect to different municipalities that have tried, you know, bylaws with respect to the tents and even loitering, I think falls within that, where you're not seeing the level of support for, particularly with the homeless population, to be able to tell somebody that you just can't stand there. And a lot of the case law sort of points to the idea that you can't tell a person that's homeless to, you know, not be able to access a public park or put a tent up or that thing. So it's really limited the teeth of a lot of those bylaws. So we are looking to enhance the loitering bylaw. We probably need to look to some of the other municipalities and see what's been supported. Because
I think we brought up this issue with the bylaw last fall sometime. And I think the bylaw is fine. It's just the enforcement of it that's lacking. And it's a compliance model, as I understand. Therefore, they only act on complaints. So it's, you know, social media is great to have it go through, but if nobody reports a concern to the city, it sort of falls on deaf ears. So I think that's where it needs to be focused on getting the complaints to the right place and then see what happens.
Hopefully we can look at something at a future meeting.
Do you want to put the loitering bylaw on the next agenda? Okay.
And the discussion about a licensing shelters as well.
Okay. All right. Looks like I skipped an item. I missed the Owen Sound Police Service collision statistics.
Yeah, so they were included in your package. They've been distributed and they're available. My computer's not working, but they're available. I mean, they speak for themselves.
it's essentially all the data that you could ever want to have with respect to collisions that gets reported to us by accident support services. So there's 50 some pages of.
Yeah, it's broken down by date, location, time, everything, and it gives a good synopsis of what happened, and you know, collisions with pedestrians, collision with bicycles, all the different things. So
days of the week, time of day, locations, environmental conditions, all of that sort of thing. So this is something that if we haven't already, we'll share with engineering, because they often ask us for the data here.
Good.
All right, it's time. All right, moving on to item number 17. If I could have a motion to move into closed and confidential closed sessions.
Is Carol still here?
Yeah.
Moved by myself, seconded by Carol Merton, that the board move into closed session. Upon termination of the closed session, the board move into confidential closed session These meetings are to review and discuss matters that fall under section 44, item 20, item 2 of the Community Safety and Police Act and section 25, item B of the Owen Sound Police Service Board General Policy 003 Board Governance to consider A, educational or training sessions, B, position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the board. C, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including members of the police service or any other employees of the board. And D, labor relations or employee negotiation.
All in favor? Great. For those who are watching the meeting live on YouTube, the feed will reconnect upon the board returning to the open session and to report out of closed session and the confidential closed sessions. If anyone would like to view the remainder of the open session, they can watch the live stream on the Owen Sound Police Service Board's YouTube channel later today. The video recording of this meeting will also be posted on our website. Thank you.